An hour a day to curate joy and maximum well-being. This is obviously an intelligent technique. We all want to feel good. Intention plays an enormous role in how we feel, in part because 2/3 of what we feel is psychological, mental and emotional. In the triad of heart, mind, and body, many of us are lost inside our thoughts and inside our feelings, regardless of what else is going on the outside. And so intention plays a powerful role. So what's the recipe? What's the technique? Number one, commit seriously to 1 hour a day of joy. Now, if we want to feel miserable, if we want to suffer, if we want to be bored, if we want to complain, this is obviously not a good technique. However, if we want to improve our lives, number one, and number two, pretend that we do not have a single hour of the day to do so, it's a little bit suspect. Out of all the 24 hours a day, it's a little bit suspect that that's really the priority. And so it could begin by making it a priority. And why not make it a high priority? And if it's high priority, we all have the same amount of time. It may take some time to transition, depending on how we've been running our life before. If we've overcommitted in various areas that do not create well-being, it will take some time to move towards that. But that might begin by understanding that a conscious high level of well-being has not been in the past our highest priority. And so we've maybe said yes to things to please other people or copied other people to avoid thinking. We have not built a life towards a high level of joy until now. Now, this technique came into being by accident. A man I met in Thailand recently reached out and talked about how miserable he was. And I'd spoken with the same man 5 years earlier, and he had been equally miserable. A long string of failures and disappointments in relationship and money and what's going on in the world and blah, blah, blah. And just as I had experienced 5 years ago, it's just like, we have mirror neurons. So whoever we spend time with, a part of us will feel what it's like to be them. It's called empathy. And I have a lot going on myself. It's been difficult to learn how to grieve and pass through some of my childhood and other traumas. And so I'm still sorting that out, right? And when I listen to him, who's sorting his things out, it's too much. The first time when I talked with him for a few hours, I got a headache. And it's like, it's just too much pain. And then this time it's like I was feeling pretty good. By the time I'd listened to about 37 minutes of the horrors of this and that, and it's like, it's so painful that it was hard to digest on top of the pain that I'm carrying in my own body. And it hit me like a very visceral force. And so I asked him, I said, are you willing to do anything to make yourself happy? And his reply was, well, when other people need help, I give 150%. But when I need something or it's for me, I give 50%. And what he had been talking about was a long list of other people abusing and exploiting him. And what I pointed out to him was, you're teaching everyone what you believe. You say you believe you are a good and valuable person, which he is. You say that you believe that. But that's not how you behave. You don't really believe it. What you believe is that you're worth 50% and that other people are worth 150%. And based on that belief, you do for other people 150%, and you do for yourself 50%, and they copy you and do for themselves and take 150%. They take your lead, and they do for you 50%. And after another year of that, you feel more depleted and more worthless and more miserable than you did before, because you're going overdrawn 150%. It's like a business. The longer you run that business, you pay $1.50 for a pair of socks and you sell the socks for 50 cents. That's your template. That's what you do to yourself. And that's what you allow and teach by modeling it to every single person in your life. I said, not only that, it is selective. You do not give 150% to everyone. You give 150% to particularly miserable strangers or people who cannot and will not give anything back to you. But when I ask you to do something, you give me 50% or very little. So you actually have two filtering processes. One, you give the most to people who give the least to you. And then two, you have your protocol of giving more and giving less to yourself. So those two things, choosing the people and prioritizing the people who give the least to you and who can give the least to you, is your first filter. And then secondly, teaching and giving more to them than you do to yourself is the second filter. So you've got guaranteed poverty and misery. And just being around you in that state of bankruptcy, because every day you sell 10 of those socks that you paid $1.50 for, and you sell them for 50 cents, and you pay $1.50 for, and you sell them for 50 cents, your bank account is going deeper and deeper and deeper into the red. And now you're getting overdraft charges. Now you're getting, letters, account closure, this and that. The interest on now the penalties. Now the penalties on the penalties. That's what your reality is telling you as you go into bankruptcy. I said, there's one way that I will be your friend, and that's this. And I'm going to share the technique with you. Number one, pick 1 hour a day that has specific rules. And these are the rules. Number one, look in your past and find the things that you've thought, the books that you've read, the movies you've watched, the people you've talked to, the activities you've done, the jogging, the bathing, the whatever it is, the food you've eaten, that bring you the most joy. Make a list. 2, imagine, based on those things, based on your dreams, based on your fantasies, what can bring you the most joy that you may or may not have done. So expand your list. Number 3, make a recipe for 1 hour a day. You can update it as many times as you want, or you can put it into more of a routine. A recipe of those things that bring you joy, and do those things scientifically. At the beginning of the hour, measure 1 to 10 scale. I feel how happy, how much joy, how much enthusiasm, how much energy do I feel now? I'm going to spend the hour according to my plan. And at each point in activity, I'm going to do 1 to 10. How's it affecting me? 1 to 10, how's it affecting me? 1 to 10, how's it affecting me? And you're going to look at the high-yielding thoughts, the high-yielding activities, the high-yielding memories, the high-yielding media. You're going to look at those, and you're going to prioritize. You're going to say, these are the winners. When I think this thought, I always feel great, has lovely momentum, then I do this out of that thought, and then that leads to more good things happening, and that leads to that's a winner. That's a 10. Okay, that goes higher on the list. And the things that, 20% improvement is not bad, but it's not a 800% return on investment. I didn't start this activity and 5 minutes later feel 300% better. There are some activities you can do, some thoughts that you can think, some intentions, some decisions, 300% better in 5 minutes. A decision. I'm not going to spend time with this person in this way anymore. 10 seconds. I feel better. How much better? 100%. 100%. Done, right? That's a good decision. Now, you track this scientifically. That's it. And of course, you respond. The next day, spend your hour doing more of the things that deliver high yields. Now, many of these things are free. A walk in the park, listening to a song. It's about the intention. Taking a hot bath with some mint in the garden, or Epsom salt from the dollar store, or whatever. These things are not necessarily expensive. They should fit your budget. Be responsible financially, but come up with the things that you can do, the things you can say, the things you can think, the decisions you can make, the phone calls you can make that yield sustainable results. And that's it. Now, he had several hours to expound upon his misery. But I asked him one question. I said, why? Why, you're the boss, why are you committed to the protocol? You said that is your protocol. It's not anyone else's. Why are you committed to the protocol of 150% for other people, 50% for yourself? Why? Explain that to me. Explain how it is that you like yourself and respect yourself, and you've designed that. That's your starting point. Now, he's gone silent because not all of us are committed or interested in feeling great. It's a tangled web because we may be more committed to the safety of familiarity. And what's familiar in a dysfunctional abuse pattern, etc., is the abuse. We may be more attached to a protocol that says if I suffer enough, someone will take pity and then be nice to me. And that's the only love I've ever experienced. And so that's what I'm going to do. But as an adult with options, he's very intelligent, very hardworking, conscientious, all kinds of freedoms and flexibility. As an adult, we are the only one that can change and decide that that's no longer a program that serves. Now, one of the things that I like to do is give lots of advice. This advice was not asked for, and it, to some extent, is not well received. It doesn't matter if we can turn it around and take our own advice. So I thought about this. I thought, obviously, he's having difficulty around this. This is hard for him. Complaining, being miserable isn't. He's been doing that for years. But being happy is hard for him. It's unfamiliar. I thought, why don't I take my own advice? And so that's what I'm doing. I'm experiencing hundreds of % increase in well-being by taking that exact recipe. And so there's two techniques here. One is an hour of joy. It works wonders. The second is give advice. Don't expect other people to take it. And follow your own advice. As a general rule, the advice that we give always can have some benefit in our own lives. Then we don't have to feel bitter or slighted that people aren't listening to us. We wanted to be helpful in there. A lot of that feeling is the fact that we are not listening to ourselves, right? And so I used to feel like, why won't people listen to me? Every time somebody takes my advice, their life statistically goes up. So I want more people to take my advice. But then I realized I'm not taking my own advice. And if I realize that all the advice that I give to other people is always for me, and I do, then somebody is taking myself seriously, and that is the most important person. It's me. And if we take ourselves seriously, take our own advice, learn from ourselves, respond to ourselves, value ourselves, put ourselves first, it stops mattering whether or not every other person does the same. Hi, I'm Dane Rose. All knowledge begins with a paradigm, and out of that paradigm comes an idea, an awareness that we adopt, reject, or synthesize into something better. It doesn't become wisdom, it doesn't become useful until we take action, until we integrate it into not only our thoughts, but our feelings, our body, our words, and our way of being. For that to occur, we have to move from the passive media paradigm into more active engagement. In the link below, in the More Information section, is an invitation to join a very small, deliberately filtered, high-quality discussion with a group of people who share a common language and want to work with these ideas, with me and with one another, with the sole goal of creating 10 times more sustainable well-being for ourselves and those around us per unit of energy invested. Thank you for watching.